This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
The opinions on this program are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WPSL. WPSL does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WPSL. Legal questions? Ask a lawyer. Give us a call at 340-1590, 340-1590 here at the studios of WPSL. And Ask a Lawyer with your host, attorney Stuart M. Address.
Good morning. I'm Stuart Address, and this is Ask a Lawyer for March 6th, 2020. And there is so much going on in the world, but I'm going to try to stick to law today. I was just telling Greg that there's so many other things we could talk about. We talk about the Supreme Court. We can talk about the Democratic primaries. We can always talk about
Supreme Court
Trump.
even in session?
Yeah, but something happened, the other day, and they're not really in session. But
Will they have a dust up?
a little bit of a dust up. We may shove that in at the very end of the show. Hey, that's called a teaser.
There you go.
Stay tuned.
Hold on to that audience
We're
for
gonna
another
talk,
quarter hour.
You're going to hear this Democratic attorney who has bashed Trump on many occasions, and I know I have a largely Republican audience. You may hear me bash a Democrat at the end if you stay tuned. Isn't that worth it?
Take your pick. Oh.
And I'd like to say we have somebody listening or watching on Facebook Live from right around Seattle, Washington. I hope you're locked in your bedroom and you've got lots of beer.
Lots of matzah.
Not Corona beer.
Oh. No, Corona's great. I had one last night.
But thank you for watching. We have a lot of people watching. All right, so we're going to talk about an interesting topic. It really is, and a lot of people get affected by this, including me. And I happen to have had a prospective new client in my office just yesterday, and that's why I'm going to bring this up today. We're going to talk about what happens when you buy a new car, and what happens when pressure tactics are applied. What happens when you get a call that you didn't get the financing they promised? What happens when they want you to sign new documents after you've taken the car home? What happens when you don't like the new terms?
Wait a minute. Back up. You have to sign new documents?
That's the backup sound.
Yeah. No kidding. It's a backup and throw that car right back on their lot.
Well, hey, that's the problem. That's the trick. It's called spot delivery. You take the car home and you fall in love.
Yeah.
And then you'll do almost anything to keep it. And that's an interesting tactic. In some ways, depending upon how it's done, it's a scam. In some ways, depending upon how it's done, it's an unfair and deceptive trade practice. And in some ways, depending upon how it's done, it's perfectly legal. And that's what we're going to talk about. So that maybe you can protect yourself from some of these tactics, or if you see them, you can know how to handle it. Greg's looking at me quizzically.
Well, I don't understand how a dealership can lose documents.
Oh, it's not that they lost it.
They intentionally lost it.
Sometimes.
Allegedly intentionally lost it.
Sometimes. Okay, let's start with the first scenario. You leave the dealership, and either that day, the day after, whatever, all of a sudden you feel, I was pressured into signing these documents. I wasn't ready to buy this car, and that salesman just pushed me, and I want to undo this thing. And I get calls like that. Now, there is such a thing as duress, but it's rare. I mean, if they lock the doors and don't let you out, that's duress.
That's every car dealership I've ever been in.
If they threaten you, that's duress. But if they just keep talking and persuading and arguing and, saying things that make you feel small, so you don't want to feel small, so Oh yeah, I can afford that. And then you ultimately sign all the paperwork. Folks, you're stuck with the deal. That's not duress, that's pressure. And they're very good at it.
Come on.
And I'm not going to bash all salesmen, just like I won't bash all attorneys or all presidents. But they are taught, when you become a new car salesman, various psychological techniques to enhance the prospect of selling the vehicle. And these are techniques that are tried and true. These are techniques that are based on human nature, things that have been studied in psychology experiments. And, some of them are very good at it. Sometimes I'll tell you a couple of my experiences where I sort of fought back, but they're very good at it. But pressure is not unlawful. You can get up and walk out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so if you end up signing documents and the only thing you're able to tell me is that you felt pressured, I'm unfortunately going to tell you, I don't think there's anything I can do for you. Now, that is different than you call me and you say, wait a second, I got home and there are terms in here I didn't agree to. The numbers aren't right. And now I'm going to say to you, did you sign this? Yes. You may have a problem. The law assumes you've read what you signed.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's why they call it fine print. And you're going to be bound by it. Now, if you tell me that some terms were added after you signed the agreement, you may very well have a case. You may have a case for fraud. You may have a case for breach of contract. You may have a case on the Unfair and Deceptive Trade Practices Act. You may very well have a case. But the first thing you're going to be asked by an attorney is, did you read it? And were these terms here when you signed it? Okay, so what if the numbers...
I probably should have read it.
What if the numbers are correct on the buyer's order form, but they're wrong on the retail sales contract?
Actually, that happened to me this last time, and they corrected it right away.
Well, then they were honorable, and that's
Yeah.
great.
Oh.
But the law is tough luck.
Mm-hmm.
If the buyer's order says you're buying this vehicle for $25,000, and the retail sales contract says 26, it's 26, and you can't go back and force them to change it to 25, because once you sign the retail sales agreement, the buyer's order ceases to exist.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
So
hey.
you can't go into court and say, look, the buyer's order says 25. They put 35 on the contract. No, you read it, you signed it. Now, is there an exception? There's an exception to everything in the law. It's one of the reasons I enjoy it. There's always exceptions. But those exceptions aren't always very wide. For example now, if the number from the buyer's order is different than the number in the retail sales contract, and that was done fraudulently, it was done on purpose, it was done to deceive you, you have a case.
But how would you know that?
Ah, there's the rub. You tell me that you think that's what happened, and my next question to you is, what facts do you have that would lead me to conclude that you might be right? And if all you can tell me is, well, that's what they must have done, I'm going to tell you I don't think I can help you. Now, there are some times where there are facts that would lead one to conclude this was done purposely. The retail sales contract is done after they've already locked up the dealership and they're rushing and you're being rushed, and, as they're signing the documents, the salesman has his arm over the top part of the contract and says, sign here. Okay, you tell me that, and I'm going to say, okay, something amiss. is going on here. So, sometimes people say, well, what do you need to know? And I say, I don't know what I need to know. I need to know what you could tell me. Because there are so many different factual scenarios. I need to hear from you, and then I can tell you whether that may present a legal issue. And as I mentioned that, 340-1590, give us a call. I have to be piquing somebody's interest.
See if this has happened to you.
Somebody has to have bought a car recently. Somebody has to, been angry at their dealership or their salesman. Come on, 340-1590. All right, so different scenario. This is a really, really popular one. You buy the car, you take it home, you cuddle with it, you give it a kiss goodnight. Falling in love with it. The oxytocin is racing to your brain, and you get a call a few days later. We need you to come back in. We need you to sign a few more papers. There was a problem. A lot of people go right back in, and they get a variation of typically a few different scenarios. One is, we weren't able to get you that interest rate. So we need you to sign this, and instead of 8%, it's going to be 9%. That's costing you a lot more money now.
Yep.
And you sign it. And then you call me. I can't help you. You signed a new contract.
Oh.
And you agreed to it.
Ah.
And if they didn't lie to you or do something that would constitute duress or fraud, then you're going to have to live with it. And we will continue on with that topic after we talk with Joe on line 1. Hello, Joe.
Hey, good morning. Kind of off your topic. But,
Okay.
Well, actually, I'd heard that car sales was the number one job for people on probation.
Car sales is the number one job for people on probation.
Oh,
Okay.
that's bad. That is bad.
I'd heard that. I don't know. Anyway, my question is, does the average everyday Joe need to be concerned with an umbrella policy?
Oh, okay. You know something? The average everyday Joe doesn't need an umbrella policy, but I will tell you that an umbrella policy is very good to have and very inexpensive. So that if you have assets that are subject to a judgment, if you have a boat, if you own an airplane, if you have a summer home, if you have things that can go after, then an umbrella policy is a really good thing to have.
Well, in a lawsuit, they can't go after your primary residence.
No, that's right. If it's homesteaded, they cannot go after it.
My only other asset besides that is I work for local government, and I have a lump of money in the Florida State Retirement.
I am pretty sure they can't get at that.
Excuse me?
I am pretty sure they cannot get at that.
Yeah, that's what I heard also. I have it. I've had it for a few years, and I just think I have more than the required liability and all that stuff on the cars. I think I have like 300, where the state required is like 100 or whatever it is,
right.
1,000. Yeah, I have more than the required there, so I feel I'm covered there. I mean, anything can happen, like I say, but you're kind of
right. I mean, you can have a car accident and the other person has brain damage and is going to be in a coma for the rest of their life.
Right, but they can only go after what they can go after.
That is correct.
If I don't have the umbrella, they can go to the max of my policy.
They can only go after what they can go after.
Right. So,
but of course, the judgment lives for 20 years.
I'm paying all this money to give somebody access to more money. I'm gonna, that's kind of how I feel about it.
And in a sense, you're right. You are paying more money so that somebody else has access to more money, unless there are assets that they can go after. They can always garnish a certain portion of your wages. If you don't want that to happen, an umbrella policy is a good thing to happen. And who knows what may happen? You may have assets in 10 years that they get a judgment tomorrow. 10 years from now, you come into an inheritance, or you do really well and you buy a summer villa on the south of France. They're going to go after you.
That's happening. I'm pretty simple. I live a pretty simple life. Anyway, you kind of answered my question. Thank
All
you
right,
very much.
you're very welcome. Thank you for listening.
Have a great day.
Take care.
You know, you talk about the interest rates.
Yes.
There was a story in the local newspaper about, maybe 10 years ago, big dealership here that would, and this is not allegedly, they lost a judgment. They would run a credit check, and then the whatever bank they were working with said no go. So then they'd run another credit check. They'd run as many as 7.
Right.
And, of course, the interest rate goes up with each one
Right.
because
They're-
your FICO score is going down.
Right.
And they got caught on that because the dealership was getting a kickback from the bank.
Oh, it's not a kickback. It's perfectly legal. It's in the contract. No, I'm very serious.
Come
I read it
on,
yesterday.
Stuart.
No. There is, folks, listen to me. I'm telling you, read the dang fine print.
Wow.
There is an actual rectangular box in the standard retail sales agreement for automobiles. I saw it yesterday. That says, it's a notice that the dealer may be receiving a portion of the interest rate it negotiates on your behalf. So, when you agree to an 8%, that means the dealer is probably getting it at 6 or 6.5. You're paying 8, but it bought it from the bank at 6 or 6.5.
Wow.
That is where it makes its money.
Yeah.
When they're telling you, we're losing money on this car. We're selling it to you an invoice. Baloney. First of all, a lot of people by now know about manufacturer holdbacks that dealers get for a vehicle.
Right.
A lot of people also know by now that dealerships that sell a certain quantity of vehicles get extra money from the manufacturer. Okay? So they make money there. One of the biggest places they make money is if you want to have undercoating or extended warranties.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? But the best place that they make money, the easiest place they make money, is on the interest rate, which is why I was going to get to this. If you can get your own financing before you walk into the dealership, you are better off, because then you know what you're really, you still know what you're paying, but you know what you could really get. You know that if your credit score is good enough to get 6%, the bank's going to offer you 6%. But if you agree to 8 and they're able to get 6.5 from the bank they do business with, they will buy it from the bank at 6.5 and you'll pay 8. And it's legal because they've disclosed it in the contract.
I'm going to go look at mine again.
You better go look.
Oh,
it's
man.
there.
Okay.
I read it yesterday.
Wow.
So that is one of the big places they make money, because you know how much 1% over 72 months is, on a $30,000, $40,000 vehicle.
Sure.
It adds up. All right. So you're asked to come back in and sign documents. Let's say it's the interest rate. We couldn't get you 8%. We can get you 9%. And you sign it. Like I said, you probably are out of luck. But now, do you have to sign it? They say to you, well, if you don't sign it, you have to return the vehicle. If you don't return the vehicle, we're going to report it stolen. We're going to have you arrested.
Are you serious?
Very serious.
Oh, my God.
Okay?
Oh.
And now you're shaking in your boots and you sign the contract. Now you may be under duress. Okay? Maybe able to get out of it. But is it even true? Are their threats true? No. There's case law on this in Florida. If you've signed a contract for 8%, the only way the dealer can get out of it is if it exercises its seller's right to cancel. What's that? It's also in the contract. I'm going to read you what it says. The standard automobile retail sales contract. You go look at your agreements. It says seller's right to cancel. It's right there in the terms and conditions. And this is essentially what it says. You understand that it may take a few days for seller to locate financing for you on the exact terms shown on the front of this contract and assign this contract to a financial institution. You agree that if seller is unable to assign this contract to any one of the financial institutions with whom seller regularly does business, under an assignment acceptable to the seller, seller may cancel this contract. If seller elects to cancel, you may have the option of negotiating and signing a new contract with different financing terms. For example, a larger down payment, a higher annual percentage rate, a required cosigner, etc. If you do not immediately return the vehicle, seller may use any legal means to take it back, including repossession, and you will be liable for all expenses incurred by seller in taking the vehicle from you. Another thing it says, I saw yesterday is, if you don't return it, you're going to be charged $75 a day as a rental. Okay. That is the seller's right to cancel. Now, it says something else in the seller's right to cancel. And this differs based on the seller. The seller has 10 days to cancel. The seller has up to 30 days to cancel. So it's supposedly shopping for the financing terms it agreed to with you. And if it can't do that, it doesn't send you a lovely notice that says it's canceled. It doesn't want to do that. It calls you up and it says, we need you to come in. We couldn't get the financing we thought we were able to get. You know, you're going to have to charge you a point more. Here's a contract, sign it. You sign it, you made the deal. You don't sign it, they threaten you. Some, not all of them, because they know they're wrong. The case law is against them. But they tell you all sorts of things. And then you call a lawyer, like this prospective client yesterday did. And you come in, I look at all the documents, and I tell you, unless they exercise that seller's right to cancel and send you a document that says seller's right to cancel within the time frame that's set in the contract, then tough luck on them. The deal's done. Now, if they do send it to you, then they're right. You have the choice of either living with new terms or returning the vehicle, because you agreed in the retail sales agreement about the seller's right to cancel. Now, of course, we know that if you didn't agree, they wouldn't sell you the vehicle. But you agreed to this term that is in the contract. What if it's not financing they call you about? I'm going to tell you a little story. What if you get a call and they say, you know, Mr. Smith, we gave you $20,000 for your trade-in, but we realize it really was only worth $16,000. We need you to come back and, you know, either finance the difference or pay the difference. No, you don't have to do that. A contract is a contract. There's nothing in the standard retail sales agreement that says they can change any term they want. That would make it an illusory contract under the law. It's not a real contract. So, for whatever reason they decide, you know, they want you to pay more down payment, your trade-in, whatever. It's cockamamie baloney. If they can get you to do it and you sign a new agreement, and without lying to you, which would be fraud, but they persuade you and you sign it, you're stuck with it. Now, this happened with one of my prospective clients, and he was nervous that he was going to get pulled over and get arrested and the vehicle was reported stolen. We have this lovely voicemail from the salesman yelling and screaming at him after he left the lot when they told him he can't leave if he doesn't sign this, saying we've reported it stolen and we've told them where you live and what your routes are to work. And
you're serious?
I'm very serious.
Oh, God.
I have a lovely voicemail that if this thing ever goes into litigation, it's going to be a wonderful thing to play to a jury. Okay, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere because they know they're wrong. They're bluffing. Okay, they're bluffing. And I told this prospective client, wait out that 30-day period. You only have another week or so to go because they're bluffing. They'll keep calling you and trying to persuade you, don't answer. They'll keep threatening you, don't worry about it. They're bluffing because they're absolutely 100% wrong. They can't just change a term of the agreement because they feel like it.
Isn't that harassment?
It may be, yes. And if you're threatened with violence, you can get a restraining order. Now, this particular prospective client really was very smart before he even called me. When he was told that it was reported stolen and threatened with arrest, he called the police.
Ooh.
And he told them what was going on, and they said, no, that's a civil matter. You have a contract that's a civil matter. You're not going to be arrested for stealing a vehicle. And they gave him a case number that he could give to any cop who might pull him over that would show that, no, this is not something that you get arrested for. And he at least was comfortable with, he's not going to jail. But he was still very unsettled about, what if they don't pay off my trade-in? Or, how do I know where to pay this first agreement? What if they don't tell me and I don't make my first payment? And we went through all that at the consultation. But this tactic, particularly with the financing, it's called spot delivery. What is spot delivery? You go in and they say, oh, drive it home. Test it out for a couple days. Now, one of two things happens when you're told you can just drive the thing home and see if you like it. You either sign a buyer's order without a contract. It's just an order at this point. Okay? And they can't enforce it. You could return the vehicle. They may not tell you that, but you can. It's only an order form.
Mm-hmm.
Or they actually go to the next step and they persuade you to actually sign a contract, but you can undo it. Well, that's probably fraud. But let's say you just signed the buyer's order form. And what they are betting on is human nature. They're betting that you're going to fall, as I said, in love with the car.
Yeah.
And you're going to come back and sign the actual contract. That's spot delivery. Now, what if it's spot delivery with 8% interest for 72 months? And they call you and they say, well, based upon your credit, we weren't able to get you the 8%. We can only get 10%. You could say no and return the vehicle based upon the seller's right to cancel. Or you go in and you sign the paperwork because you love the vehicle. That's why they let you take it home.
Mm-hmm.
Before you ever sign an actual contract, they let you take it home. They know they can get it back.
Sure.
But they're betting you won't want to give it back. And it's a perfectly legal technique. As long as they don't run afoul of fraud. As long as they don't run afoul of a deceptive trade practice. If what they're doing is really just what they say they're doing, take it home, try it out, see if you like it. If you do, this is the terms that you'll buy the car. This is the order form. You'll come back in, you'll sign the contract. If that's all that's being done, perfectly legal. They're betting on psychology. Because they would rather you take the vehicle home for 2 days than say to them, let me think about it, I'll come back in 2 days. Once you leave that dealership, they know what the statistics are that you're likely to come back and make a deal. That's why they don't want you to leave, not even for half an hour. So here comes a story. I think it was 2 cars ago. I bought a car at a West Palm Beach dealership. I honestly don't even remember which one now. Nor would I say it if I did. And these were the days before you really had the internet negotiations, which we're going to get to. You went in and you stayed there for 5 or 6 hours and negotiated. At least I did. I'd always make them work with. They figure the longer they work with you, the more you want the car. And that's true psychologically with most people. I figured the more they worked with me, the more they wanted to sell the car.
They want you to get out.
All right, so I'm negotiating with this guy at his tiny little desk for a good, 5 hours or so. And, we're just not close enough on the price, but we're getting closer. I know what I'm willing to buy the vehicle for. And my tummy starts to rumble. I'm getting hungry. And I know that is a bad way to negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't mean it as a game. I said to him, look, I've got to go grab a quick bite. I'll be back in half an hour. And I meant it. And I stood up, and I started to walk towards the door. And I said, no, you don't have to go. Let me see what we can find for you. And he goes. And
I'll make you a sandwich.
He comes back with a bag of cookies. Well, what he didn't know was he was reaching right into my heart there. Cookies? Yeah, I'll stay for cookies. So he gave me a bag of cookies, and I sat back down. So he thinks, okay, great. I stopped the guy from leaving. Now we can continue with the pressure.
And that was worth 4 interest points.
So I'm munching on these cookies while talking to him. And I realize what's going on here. And so I'm very proud of myself that I'm munching on these cookies. And another hour or so goes, oh, I have to talk to the sales manager. Folks, that's a bunch of baloney most of the time. First of all, some of the times they don't go talk to anybody. They just come back and say, well, I really couldn't do that. Or the best I can do is this. Very often they didn't go talk to anybody. They went and they had a soda or some water or used the facilities. And they just made you wait. Waiting is in their benefit. You think about it more. So he comes back. Oh, I talked to him. Okay, fine. I don't really believe that. Now, sometimes they really do go talk to somebody. And they bring back their sales manager. I'm not going to use statistics like Trump does, where I have no basis for them. I'm just going to say that some of the time, that the person that they bring back is not the sales manager. It's another salesman who's playing the role of sales manager for the next 5 minutes. And he says, he talked to me. He told me what you need. I wish I could do that. I just can't go that far. Just another tactic. Okay. Now, sometimes they actually do go and get a sales manager, and now you're negotiating with a sales manager. So, okay. So he played his pretend game maybe a few times. Then he goes and he gets somebody who I could tell from the way he was dressed was not the average salesman. So I figure, okay, this is a sales manager. Maybe not the top sales manager, but a sales manager.
But an executive of some sort. Yeah.
So he comes over, and he's getting ready. He's gonna tell me his story, and he's gonna tell me why he can't do what I want him to do, and it's gonna be 2-on-1 tag team wrestling. And as he approaches me, I look at him and say, "Want a cookie?"
Oh God.
Yes.
Oh.
And I had a cookie out of the bag, and I offered him a cookie. And he took the cookie, and I win. If he hadn't taken the cookie, he still would have had power. Once he took the cookie, I had the power.
You got it. Bingo.
Now, he's still arguing with me, and, I look out in this particular situation to my right through the big glass doors, all the dealerships have. And I had parked the new car that I'd taken for a test drive right there in front. And now I look over to my right, and it's not there anymore. And I know. Folks, I'm telling you what that means. They're prepping the vehicle.
They're detailing it, sure.
They're prepping the vehicle. In their mind, they've just sold the vehicle. So now I know they will come to what I want because they're prepping the vehicle. So I just said to them basically, I won't. I kept trying to get them to. Finally, they just wouldn't make that last move that I was insisting upon. So I was honest. I said, "Look out there." Yeah. Do you see the car I test drove? No. Yeah, of course not. You're prepping the vehicle. Now give me my price. And they did. And I was there for like I was there for like 8 hours.
Oh. Are you? Oh God. Uh-huh.
Oh, and the worst thing when they give you the contract, if you really start reading it, oh my God, they get impatient. Somebody's reading those terms and conditions. They don't know what to do. They just want to know what I'm signing. Has anything been snuck in there?
How about this story? You look outside, you've got your car that you drove in on,
Yes, yes.
but they've taken the license plates off the car so it can't be driven,
That's right.
and they can't find them.
And you want to know what that's called? False imprisonment.
Oh, God. Ah!
Now, this is arguable, okay? If I'm the attorney on the other side, I can argue the other side of the case. You know as lawyers, we talk about both sides of our mouth. I would argue it's false imprisonment because that is an essential part of you. You know, if you're in a car and they touch a car, that's a battery. You're considered to be connected to the vehicle. You are considered to be connected to the vehicle.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So if they were to take the plates off, or they can't find the car, or whatever, I would argue that prevents you from leaving. It effectively prevents you from leaving. Now, could you walk out onto US 1 and start hiking? Sure, you could. And if I was their attorney, that's what I would argue. It doesn't really meet the standards of false imprisonment because you're free to leave. But as your attorney, I'd be arguing that does meet the standard of the tort of false. It's not a crime. The tort of false imprisonment.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
It's not like kidnapping or something.
No. This is a civil tort that you can sue and get damages for. I would argue that it does meet the test for false imprisonment because you effectively were prevented from leaving with perhaps the most expensive asset you own. And, in addition to false imprisonment, I might throw in some other torts there, civil theft. I might throw a few things in if I needed to get their attention. But you're right. Sometimes they can't find your car. Isn't that interesting? Hogwash. Your car is being hidden in plain sight.
Your car's already been shredded.
Now, let's go into this one. The seller elects to cancel. You get that notice written in writing. And you now have the option of either, bringing the car back or, agreeing to new terms. And you say, well, okay, I'm going to bring the car back. I want my trade-in. Oh, we've sold it. We don't have it. Let me tell you, folks, your trade-in disappears from that vehicle, that lot, usually in an instant. Unless it's a primo vehicle that they're going to go and sell as a used car. They've given it to somebody else they do business with, and they've sold it.
They'll wholesale it.
It's gone. Yeah, it's gone. And they can't give it back to you. Do you now have to give back the new vehicle? Can they just give you the value of that car? No. If they want to cancel the agreement, they have to be able to restore you to what is called the status quo, the situation which existed before you entered into the agreement. That's you and your vehicle. They can't do that. It's very likely that they can't force you to bring that car back, that they have to honor that interest rate, even if it means they lose money. Now, there is some thought, and I could see, I don't know if there's actually case law on this, but I can understand if there were. There's some thought that they can offer you the money, but if they offer you the money, it has to be the highest amount that any of these various publications, these books, blue book, yellow book, pink book, maroon book, it has to be the highest value that is listed for your vehicle. They can't just say, well, the way we do we knew the trade-in is we average these 3 books, and so no. I can understand maybe they can get out of the deal if they're giving you the top dollar for your vehicle, and that is essentially restoring you to the status quo. But then you argue, but I can't purchase an equivalent vehicle for that amount of money. And that's when I, as your attorney, say, well, that's a very good point, and so I think you have a good argument that you don't have to return the vehicle. So, I can't give a hard yes or no on that, but I can see the argument on the side of the buyer and effectively make it. And I can also see the argument on the side of the seller. But most of the time, unfortunately, I believe the seller is being deceptive, and so I have no sympathy for them.
There was a story about a car dealership here locally that was not paying off
Oh, yes.
trade-in loans, and people started getting these notices from the bank. You owe X amount of dollars. No, I don't. I don't own the car anymore. The
That's
dealership
right.
has it.
And that came up yesterday in my consultation. What if they don't pay my trade-in? And I told them, almost certainly they will. If they don't, give me a call. The reality is your contract for financing of your old car is with, let's say, Bill McGillicuddy's Bank of Omaha. When you sell the car...
How'd you know that account was coming on right after this show? Oh,
When you sell that trade-in, as far as Bill McCuddy's Bank of Omaha is concerned, you're the one that owes them money. So now, Toyota dealership X doesn't pay off the trade-in. Bill McCuddy's Bank of Omaha is coming after you.
yeah.
Now, of course, you can then sue Toyota dealership X. But Bill McCuddy's coming after you because you're the one he contracted with. So that is a problem. And it puts you in a very difficult position because you're left either paying on two vehicles to avoid litigation or you have to sue. It's a messy situation. And all I can say is very often you can only hope that you can get some of your attorney's fees back as a result of litigation or settlement. But it does happen. It doesn't happen very often as far as my experience, but it does happen.
Okay, now wait a minute. How long would it take this court case to go through the system that you would supposedly then have to pay two titles on?
All right. Any court case is going to take you probably a couple years.
Oh, God.
Now, are you going to have to pay for both vehicles for that long? I don't think so. I think that if I'm your attorney and Bill McCuddy, Bank of Omaha, is suing you, and then now I am filing a third-party complaint against Toyota dealership X, I'm going to file a motion for injunctive relief right up front. And I am going to ask the court to order the party who could best bear the financial burden to at least temporarily satisfy the debt, and that is Toyota dealership X. And if at the end of the litigation it's determined that it's really your problem, not Toyota dealership X, then it's on you. But I think that if you can show you have a contract that you traded in this vehicle to Toyota dealership X, and they didn't pay it off, and now you're being sued, and so you've third-partied in Toyota dealership X, I think those are a set of facts that are clear under contractual documents that a court might order injunctive relief that protects you from having to make that second payment.
Wow. Gosh.
So, I mean, that's why you ask a lawyer.
Bingo.
Seriously. There are situations that occur that you are not expected to know about. And lawyers are. Or lawyers are expected to be able to figure it out by doing the appropriate type of legal research. When I have something that breaks in the house, I'm going to tell you, I don't know a flathead from a Phillips head. I'm not the person who does the fix-it. I'm not one of those guys. I've got to call somebody and hope they're being honest and truthful or got a good reference or something. But I'm not expected to know how to fix my sink or my toilet or the light that went out or the doorbell that broke.
Hello, home advisors.
But I have to go to somebody for that.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are listening to this show, I would dare to suggest that you probably don't know a heck of a lot about a lot of different types of legal issues. Nor should you, nor would anybody expect you to, nor is it anything bad that you don't.
So bring your lawyer with you when you buy a car. Oh.
Well, I have family members that do that. They bring their lawyer with them. Matter of fact, I just negotiated the car deal for my niece, and she was very happy.
Okay, that's cool.
And we have Andrew on line one. Hello, Andrew. How can I help you?
I'm doing very well, Tony Address. I just got a hypothetical scenario. Let's say, like you were describing about 5-6 minutes ago, in regards to the car you drove in on, and you're going through, and you're thinking about buying the vehicle that you just test drive,
Okay.
and all of a sudden the car that you drove in on is gone. But what I'm getting at is, how can they do that if I am the title owner with absolutely zero liens, no second parties, or this and that? How can they do that?
They can't.
That's almost...
That doesn't mean they don't, but they legally they can't. The question is, you drive in on an old with your car. You're thinking about buying a new car, and now your old car all of a sudden disappears. How can they do that? Well, they can't. To do that, I would argue that it's effectively false imprisonment.
Yeah, or grand theft.
Or it's called conversion, which is another tort, which is a fancy way of saying taking somebody else's property with the intent not to return it either permanently or for a substantial period of time.
Well, Andrew just mentioned grand theft. Is it possible that you could do that?
I think you can argue that. I don't know, unless the new car dealership takes that vehicle away off the lot. I don't know if grand theft is going to hold up. Okay. I don't know if a state attorney would charge it. Certainly if they took it away, I think you're absolutely right. I think any officer would arrest and charge grand theft. But if the vehicle is hidden in the back, with the old jalopies, I think it's a civil matter, not really a criminal matter. Okay. But I would absolutely, in a situation like that, call the police. I would absolutely call the police.
Sure.
Because that'll get you your vehicle back real quick.
Well, that cleared up my assumption of worst case scenario, and something like that ever happened, or keep my eyes wide open. Next time I mean,
they're counting on people that don't know, or people that frankly are afraid to speak up. They don't like negotiating with people that know what the price and the value of the vehicle is. And let me tell you, I've told this to salespeople. I've been blunt. I said, look, I don't care that you're not going to make any money on this vehicle. First of all, you're lying to me, because there's the holdback and there's the this and there's the that. But I don't care. Go make it on the next person that walks in that doesn't know how to negotiate, or thinks that the manufacturer's suggested retail price on the sticker is the price you're supposed to pay. Then make your money there.
What it says on the windshield.
Right.
The bottom, virtually the bottom line, and it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I just bought a new truck a little while ago, but I paid cash, and the transaction was relatively pretty cool, but I had the same scenario where the salesperson said, I got to go talk to my manager. And I said, well, if you can't get that number down to where it's, we can agree on, I'm walking.
That's right. And I think, the best thing to say is stick up for yourself. Certainly, not all people are capable of doing that. For example, a prime target population are the elderly. And very often I'll get calls, And
the thing about it too, trying to address is that I was civil about it. I was, it's like, hey, like you just said the key word, blunt.
Right.
I'm negotiable. We can wheel and deal, but, when push comes to shove, you want me to walk through that big, beautiful glass door and out I go, or...
Make sure you take a box of cookies first.
And you're right, it's going to affect the salesman's, percentage of, commission. So I understand everybody's got to make a buck.
That's right. Thank you for calling. I appreciate you listening.
Oh, absolutely. Great show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Bye-bye. So that's a very valid point. They're counting on the people that won't speak up, can't speak up, or target populations that don't know to speak up. I mean, the elderly, very often I'll get a call from, one of their kids, that says, well, my mom was in the dealership the other day, and she ended up buying this vehicle that she didn't think she was going to buy that day. And I listened to the facts that are presented to me, and it sounds like undue pressure. And it doesn't take as much to be duress when you're dealing with a target audience like the elderly. There are statutes, both criminal and civil, that make it a little bit easier to argue it's, elder abuse.
She went in on Friday and didn't leave till Sunday.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, the moral of the story, be prepared. And another moral, buying a car has changed. Agree on the price on the internet. You can go shopping now on the internet, and if you're interested in a particular vehicle with that VIN number, you send an email, and the supposed internet manager will call you back, or I don't want them to call me back. I tell them, email me. Email me your best price.
Ooh, so you have a record of it.
Well, no. Yes, but that's not why I do it. I don't want to be talking to them. I don't want them calling me 18 times a day. Email me your price. And I tell them, email me your best price because I'm just going to shop it around. So if you really want me to come into the dealership, give me a price that I want to buy the vehicle at. And what I have done in my last two cars is I have negotiated through email and then maybe a phone call, gotten the number that was agreed upon, then I've gone into the dealership. You're still there a few hours, folks, with all the paperwork. But the negotiating is done. The opportunity to put that pressure on you in person is gone. You've done it from the comfy of your own favorite chair or couch, on your laptop, and nobody's been able to pressure you. You've traded 3 or 4 emails back and forth over the course of a couple of days. Now you have a price you're okay with. Now you just got to go in and make sure the paperwork is correct. But it's a lot better way of buying a car than, the old-fashioned way. And there was an even older-fashioned way, as we get ready to sign off, that, my father taught me way back when. That's when you went into the dealership and you didn't buy a car off the lot. They pulled out their order book and they told you every single option that was available. And then they went and they built the car in Detroit. And you got the car about 3 months later. But that's really old. And I'm now dating myself, as they say. But it looks like we have essentially run out of time. So I have very little opportunity to say anything political. So I'm going to make it really, really fast. All right. I'm a Democrat. What Chuck Schumer did and what he said about the Supreme Court justices is absolutely wrong. The best thing he could have done, and what he should have done, is immediately apologized, said that my mouth ran faster than my brain, and it would have been over with by now. Okay, so I don't stand up for him just because I'm a Democrat. What he did was wrong. He should still apologize. Anyway, I'll be back next Friday for Ask a Lawyer. Until then, hope you have a wonderful weekend and a good week. Take care.
WPSL Port St. Louis.